Your Steve Jones Show podcast will start shortly. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Brewers Outlet, your beverage supermarket on Reagan Street in Sunbury. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is the Steve Jones Show on a Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. News Radio 1070 WKOK. Today's show brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Home brews, domestics. They roast their peanuts hot and fresh every day. Water, snacks, soft drinks. They got it all for you. Stock up, literally, if everything that's going on now with coronavirus. Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury is our sponsor for today. And, of course, Steve will be joining us shortly from the Sunbury Motors Studio, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And we got a jam-packed show for you today as we continue our coverage of coronavirus affecting the world of sports. Steve is back from Indianapolis, and he will be joining us shortly to give his perspective on what's happened today. We're going to hear from Penn State Athletic Director Sandy Barber at 4:06 today. She's going to address all the concerns and all the different measures that have been taken by the university athletics as far as precautions for coronavirus. And we'll also have... There he is. Okay, there he is. Yeah. We got Jim Jackson today too, Steve.
Is there any reason why I'm hearing more than a feeling in the background?
That is interesting. I don't know why I'm hearing it myself.
That's
see if we
not
can fix
good.
that.
Well, you better. No. Even though I like the song, it's actually pretty good. So, yeah. There you go. It's fading out. Is that good?
I think so, yeah.
No, it's back. It's up higher. There we go, everybody. More than a feeling. Yeah. All right. Now, is that just me hearing it, or can the audience hear it?
I know I can hear it in my headset, but I will have to check on that.
Because I can hear it loud and clear. That's fine. If the audience can't hear it, it doesn't matter. You know, the audience probably sitting there and saying, what the heck is wrong with them? They've become deranged. All right, so yesterday, all right, let me take this back a step. Let's go to Wednesday. I do the show with Matt Wednesday, and as of Wednesday, there's a lot of news happening, and they're going to play the games Wednesday night with an audience. Okay, which they did. And when they played, the crowd was pretty good on Wednesday night because Indiana was playing. And the first game was Northwestern Minnesota. So I had gone over after the show on Wednesday, and we had a lot of breaking news. You know, they're going to play the tournament. They're going to continue the tournament, but no fans. The NCAA is going to have no fans, and that's how they're going to do it. So that's Wednesday. As Matt said, this is as much breaking news as he's ever seen in a 2-hour period. Okay. So now you get to Wednesday evening. Wednesday evening, I go over, I get my press pass at Bankers Life, talk to a couple quick people, quickly, and then I walk back to the hotel because, I mean, the Bankers Life Fieldhouse is just a I could walk to Lucas Oil Stadium or to Bankers Life from the hotel we're in. It's right in the middle between the two of them. So I walk over. Okay, fine. It's a beautiful night, but we also know that there are going to be no fans allowed the next day. Before I go over, there's a group of Penn State people sitting at the bar. I said hi to them. They're like, oh, man, we can't go. It's only essential personnel tomorrow, the whole thing. They're kidding me about being essential. I said, well, I'm the old guy. And then there were some Ohio State fans sitting there saying, and they didn't know. They said, what do you mean? I said, you can't go. They said, if you want to go tonight, if you got an all-session ticket tonight, you can go. I said, but after that, no fans. So they're upset. They're disappointed. And I don't blame them. They spent the money. They want to go out. I got it. So now we go to dinner at St. Elmo's. So, I'm sitting there, order a steak, and then the news comes across about Rudy Gobert. And I said, that's it. They said, what do you mean that's it? I said, the NBA is going to have to suspend operations, and if they do it, everybody's going to follow suit. Everybody looked at me at the table like, you think so? I said, yeah. And then, boom, the NBA suspended operations. They went, uh-oh. I said, guess what? We're next. I said, they're going to knock out both the Big Ten tournament and the NCAAs. I said, they're going to knock them both out. I said, everybody's going to follow suit. And I was on Sirius XM yesterday morning, and they asked me about it. I said, now at this point, I woke up and I wanted to check and see if anything had changed overnight. And as of 9 o'clock in the morning when I was on Sirius, nothing had changed. So I told them, they asked me about it, and they said, what do you think? And I said, I think the key is the Rutgers-Michigan game. I said, if the Rutgers-Michigan game starts and is played in its entirety, I said, we will be playing basketball today. I said, but if they step in and say no, then the tournament's over, and that may be the same thing for the NCAAs. That's what I told them. Normally when Penn State's in a situation where they're going to play an either or, as soon as the game's over, I get an email from the Big Ten with the box score, and then I get revised stats. And I always sit down in my hotel room right after that game, and I've got the game, I had Indiana updated right up until that game. So now I can take 45, 50 minutes and do the quick kind of update that I do in Penn State all the time. So I sat there and went, okay, and I can do that. This will tell you everything about what I was thinking Wednesday night. I didn't even open my laptop. I knew they weren't going to play. This is Wednesday night. I knew Wednesday night they weren't going to play. I said I thought it would have been a miracle for it to happen. So something that I always do, and you guys know how dedicated I am to preparation. I didn't even bother doing it because I knew if I did, I was absolutely wasting my time. And finally at 11:45, Dick and I were at lunch at P.F. Chang's, and Dick got a hold of Dana O'Neill, who was at the arena. And she said, Ohio State and Michigan are warming up. Rutgers and Michigan are warming up. And all of a sudden the word came down that, no, that's it. Then the word came down that the Mid-American Conference was going to take the temperatures of every player and staff member before they allowed the teams to play in Cleveland. Then the word was the Big Ten was canceling. Well, when the Big Ten canceled, that was the first. There was nobody else that canceled first. They canceled. Then the American canceled. Then the Big 12. The ACC was one of the last. Well, we know who the last one was. The very last was the Big East. They started playing. And we're looking at each other. And I said to Dick, I said, Val Ackerman, the commissioner of the Big East. I said, it reminds me of the line from the movie Enemy of the State with Gene Hackman and Will Smith. Have you seen this movie, Matt?
I have not. I'm very bad with movies.
Okay. All right. So you know what the issue is? Every time you turn up your microphone, I can hear the other radio station. So you're getting bleed over somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in the end, it's you. All right. So I looked up. There's a line in the movie near the end of the movie where Will Smith is going to go in and confront gangsters. And the FBI is in the neighborhood. He's going to confront gangsters. And Gene Hackman looks at him. He says, you're either really, really smart or you're really, really stupid. And I said to Dick, I said, Val Ackerman is really, really smart or she's really, really stupid. Now, in the end, Will Smith worked out okay, and Gene Hackman said, quote, not so dumb after all. Well, at halftime, Creighton and St. John's were like, we can't play. So, I mean, let's just start with then the NHL later in the day said they weren't going to play. But there are reasons for this. I do not want to hear for a second anybody say, oh, the leadership of Adam Silver in the NBA. Oh, wrong. Oh, okay. They had to. I mean, if any group that had to do it, it was them. They're the ones that had the players test positive. Rudy Gobert, and then can you tell by his tweets how disgusted Donovan Mitchell is with Rudy Gobert? Did you see that?
I did. I was flabbergasted with how cavalier that Gobert was with this whole issue. He was touching the microphone at the press conference. Apparently, he was pretty cavalier touching his teammates. I was dumbfounded by it.
Yeah. So that's, so he was disgusted by that. But they had to. When you're sitting there and Utah has to go into quarantine 14 days, Oklahoma City, even though Gobert was not at the arena, he was not there, they had to go into quarantine, Oklahoma City, because Mitchell was there. Mitchell was there. So they had to go into quarantine. As Miles Powell of Seton Hall pointed out at Madison Square Garden, and Seton Hall had not played yet. They were still scheduled to play. He texted out, he says, we're in Madison Square Garden. He says, the Jazz just played here. He said, what am I supposed to think? Fred Hoiberg got sick, and he actually entered the building sick on Wednesday night, the head coach of Nebraska. During the course of the game, it was shown on TV, him doubled over and ill. He eventually left and was taken to the hospital. So one of the Penn State players at breakfast was upset about the fact that Fred Hoiberg, he says, what's going on? I mean, what happened with him? And I did tell them, I'm not going to say which player. I said, don't worry about it. It turns out that he was released from the hospital last night. It's influenza A, which, of course, is the flu. Well, that player immediately was like, oh. And I can tell you right now, that player went to shoot around and was loose and had fun at shoot around because they felt like a burden was lifted off their shoulders. He was worried. Pat addressed all of this with the team before shoot around. And he said, look, if there's somebody that's comfortable not playing, then I'm not going to play it. You don't have to go over. And they all said they want to play. Okay. So that was their decision that they wanted to play the game. And they went over to shoot around and shot around. The Michigan Radio Network was sitting there. Rutgers Radio Network was set up, but I didn't see them. They weren't physically there, but they were set up. And the Iowa guys were coming in to set up for the 2:30 game. And I stood there the entire time harboring some hope. Please, not for me. I know I've had people say things to me about me and whatever. This has zero to do with me. It's all to do with the players, okay? Everything has to do with the players and the coaches mean, they throw their heart and souls into this. But, you know, I just was harboring maybe some semblance of hope because everybody was set up and ready to go. I thought, they got to start this game. The only way they can do this is if they start the game. And then they got to finish. Then I said, look, you got to finish the game. You have to finish it. It wasn't just starting it to me. It was also finishing it. By finishing it means that now you've accomplished something and you can move forward. And then, of course, we got the word it was all done. There's a lot I want to talk about that. We're going to have Sandy Barber on the show today. All right? Jim Jackson's on the show today. Monday, we're going to have Mark Brennan and Neil Riddell. Next week, we're lining up Tony Knopp. We're also trying to get Tim Brando on the show because Tim Brando is going to have – there's nobody that has a perspective. Well, first of all, you know how much I respect him to begin with, okay? But the next one is that Tim also is the one that did the tornado game in the Georgia Dome. And he was the one announcing yesterday's game, and at halftime, they called it. So nobody's going to have a better perspective than Tim Brando, so I want to get him on next week. Look, sports is on hiatus across the board. It doesn't matter if we get Tim Brando on Monday or if we get him on Wednesday or Friday. It doesn't matter. All right? We got a lot of time to talk with a lot of different people, and we're in the process of lining up several very interesting guests. And our play-by-play calls of the day will be great moments in sports history because, believe me, sports is going to be a big reason that we get back to normalcy in this country. Today's show brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
If you want to have a fun day, you have to drive a Hyundai from Sunbury Motors Hyundai. If an SUV is on your mind, Sunbury Motors Hyundai has the model for you. Save up to $2,497 on a 2020 Hyundai Kona, starting at $22,643. Sunbury Motors has 21 2020 Tucsons with savings as high as $38,27. If you're thinking about a midsize SUV, test drive a 2020 Hyundai Santa Fe with a $4,071 discount. The 2020 Santa Fe starts at $26,552. Sunbury Motors Hyundai has 4 of the all-new Hyundai Palisades, starting at $34,200. All Hyundais come with America's best warranty, a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. And just announced, every new Hyundai comes with a 3-year regular maintenance plan. If you want to have a fun day in your next SUV, you have to drive a Hyundai. From Sunbury Motors Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury.
Sunbury Motors.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Imports, domestics, microbrews, best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. And the pickle bar, led by the barrels and the dills, indeed second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. And we're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Coming up next half hour, Sandy Barber, Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics at Penn State, will join us. And then Monday, Neil Riddell, Altoona Mirror, and Mark Brennan, 24/7 Sports and Fight on State, will join us on the show. Very pleased, though, to have Jim Jackson joining us. Jim, welcome. Great to have you with us. We're going to have you on anyway, and it just turned out that with the circumstances we have you on in this circumstance. Thanks so much for your time.
I'm glad to be here. I'd rather be here given what we were originally going to talk about, believe me. But, yeah, these are strange times.
They are strange times. So let's start. Let's do this on a two-prong attack. In the two-prong attack, Major League Baseball is delayed the opening 2 weeks of the season. and we'll see how it plays out. So let's start with that. What are the expectations of what the players are supposed to do while they're waiting during this hiatus?
Well, this is a fluid situation because I just got an alert as I was waiting here on hold. It said that they're being sent home or sent away from the facilities, at least down in spring training. I know that for the weekend that had been the case. Now, I haven't had a chance to even dive into the alert, so I don't know whether that means they've been permanently sent home from spring training or whether that just meant for the weekend, because I know that was what it was for the Phillies. They've basically been told to come back in a couple days. They were going to close down the facility for the most part for a day or two. So, again, Steve, this is a very fluid situation. As we speak, and the time I'm on the air with you right now, things are going to change. So, for everyone, it is, and I was around the Flyers today, it is a complete mystery. We don't know where we're headed with either sports team, either sports season. We do know it's shut down, and we do know it's going to be shut down or paused, as the NHL has put it, suspended, as Major League Baseball has put it, and the NBA as well, for as long as it takes to be safe. And given what I'm seeing and reading and hearing from a national basis and everything that's being said about the coronavirus, it's going to take a little while. So we're in a real holding pattern here, and I think all the athletes are kind of waiting for direction, just as the country's kind of waiting for direction. It's really an uneasy time for sure.
It's definitely uneasy. Now, when I knew when the NBA suspended Wednesday night, as soon as I saw it, I looked at everybody at the table. Because I was in Indianapolis to broadcast the Big Ten tournament. I said, that's it. They're done because, with the NBA suspending. The NHL shares so many buildings, and the Flyers obviously share with the Sixers. How important a factor was that for the NHL that, hey, look, we share the same facilities with the NBA. They're shutting down. We need to, too.
Yeah, they pointed that out in their statement, so I'm sure it was a factor. But you know what? As we look at the bigger picture here, I think once the NBA shut down, and they had to shut down because they had a player test positive and then another one shortly thereafter, I think all sports pretty much that was the lead. I mean, how could the NHL not pause or suspend, or however you want to word it, should, let's say they continue to play and a week from now a player test positive, that player would have come in contact in that week's time with 2-3 other teams, officials, fans, and that the NHL would have to wear, right? Because they did not close things down when the NBA did. So I think once the NBA did that, the rest of the dominoes throughout the sports world had to fall. It was just a matter of, I think, the commissioner getting together with all the presidents of the teams, the owners of the teams, and making sure everybody was in line with it, and getting some kind of idea of what the plan was, at least in terms of pausing the season for the NHL, suspending it for Major League Baseball. Baseball, of course, has the additional situation where they're playing now in one place in Florida and Arizona as part of spring training, and then they're all moving to their cities. So a little more complicated there, and they were meeting with the Players Association today to go over some of the details of that. But even given that, I don't know. I mean, as we speak, there's a news conference going on at the White House, and we're finding out things that may affect this. They may shut things down. It might not be possible for baseball to start with just a 2-week delay. So, again, very fluid. Everyone has to watch the news. They have to watch what the health officials are saying. We have to try to get through this. This is a crisis that obviously supersedes sports.
What has been your personal attitude about COVID-19, seeing it play out, and has the last 48 hours in any way changed that attitude?
I guess the only change would be how quickly it's happened. I mean, once the word came out, what was it, less than 48 hours ago, about the NBA, I mean, it just was rapid fire in terms of all the sporting events shutting down. I've been watching the news. I try to stay up with current events anyhow, right along, and this is not a new situation. It's new here, maybe, in terms of the fact that it's spreading so quickly, but in seeing what had happened in China and then on to some of the other countries, you knew that if it got here, it was going to be a major story. I just did not quite expect it maybe to get to this point this quickly. And maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to get into politics of it. Maybe it didn't have to get this far so quickly if certain things have been taken care of earlier on. But this is where we're at now, and it's a very, very tenuous time. No one, I can't imagine anyone was around for the last one that affected our country this way. They might have been infants, right? It was about 100 years ago, over 100 years ago.
Right.
So
Sure.
we're this is new for all of us, and it's something that we're all trying to come to grips with. So there was that side of it, and then there was the side of it of just how it affects the sports and how putting your arms around the sport coming to a halt in the NHL's case right as you're ramping up toward the playoffs, and in baseball's case, just as you're ramping up to the start of the season.
Yeah.
You're going full bore in both of those sports. I'm prepping for baseball as I'm obviously following the Flyers down their stretch run, and you're going. This is one of the most exciting times for me every year, the spring, and then again, hopefully in the fall when maybe the Phillies are in the playoffs and the Flyers are starting. Those are the two most exciting times for me. I'm involved fully in two sports, and it's exciting times for both sports. So for it to just come to a halt, it's not something I've ever gone through before, so I really don't know quite how to handle it. It's from that standpoint, I go from being as busy as I could possibly be to now all of a sudden I have a lot of time on my hands, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to make good with that while trying to stay healthy.
What can sports do once things start to settle down and the teams start playing again? And they will. What can sports do to bring a sense of normalcy back to the country, in your opinion?
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how the country responds to 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe 2, 3, 4 months, we don't know, without sports. This country is so into sports. I mean, I've been a sports fanatic my entire life. I can't even imagine, put aside what I do for a living, I can't even imagine as much of a sports fan as I am of not having some kind of sporting event to watch on TV every night. The weekends, to have sporting events in the weekends. And we're going to find out now. And the only thing close to this for me probably was the lockout of the NHL in 04-05. But even then, I ended up doing sports talk. I did some minor league baseball. I did other sports, right? There's no other sports to do. Every sport is pretty much shut down, save, NASCAR and horse racing, I guess, right?
Yeah, right.
Soccer, it's empty stadiums. But so, I mean, it's like it's just something we haven't gone through. I think once it comes back, people will be so happy with it. Sometimes through things like this, and I know this might seem kind of idealistic, but sometimes when you go through challenges like this, positives come out of it. Personally, for me, during that lockout in 04-05, I got to do AA baseball in Trenton, and that led me to eventually getting the Phillies job. So
right.
I wouldn't have been able to partake in a World Championship back in 08 if it hadn't been a hockey lockout in 04-05, because it got me back into baseball, and I got the baseball bug back, and I started talking with the Phillies, and one thing led to another. That was a totally personal standpoint. Now, given this is a much more serious thing, this isn't just the NHL, this is the world, this is our country, this is health, lives are being lost. I don't know what positive can come out of this, but you hope during time when you have extra time, people maybe get back together with families and reconnect with family members. And you're going to spend time together, hopefully, and maybe there's some kind of positive that can come out of this. But I do know people are going to miss sports. No matter what they do to fill their time, they're not going to have sports. So when it comes back, Steve, I think it's going to be welcome back with open arms, and people are going to be as fanatical as ever. Obviously, in Philadelphia, they're always fully intense in terms of their sports. I can't imagine it being any more, but
yeah.
When the teams come back, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, there's going to be lots and lots of enthusiasm.
Obviously, coming back sooner rather than later, what was the sense that you had with this Phillies team in spring training as to how good could they be? Now, obviously, time off can change how this goes, but as of right now, how good could they be?
Well, they were really happy, obviously, with how they were performing in spring training. I never want to take those win-loss results too far, though, because sometimes
I'm with you.
Worst records have the best seasons and vice versa.
Exactly.
But when you're talking about a new manager and several new coaches coming in, I think it's important to try to establish that winning mentality early, and Joe Girardi certainly seemed to be doing that. So I think there is optimism. They have question marks, and right to the very end here, 2 injury question marks popped up, which I think are going to be rather important for them. So Anthony Dominguez, of course, with a setback, and then Jake Arrieta having to leave. Although he said it was precautionary, but he had to leave the game yesterday with a shoulder stiffness. If we start getting into this injury situation with the pitching staff again, it's going to be tough for even a great manager like Joe Girardi to get this team to the level they want to get to. So hopefully that wasn't the harbinger of more injuries to happen. And now, of course, we don't know how long the season's going to be. So
right.
It's just so many question marks. But going in before all this happened, there was definitely an optimism around the team that they expect to bounce back from Rhys Hoskins. I'm expecting, given health, a huge year from Bryce Harper. He's over the adjustment period. He had a great year as it was. I think he can get even better. Realmuto, and some nice additions in Wheeler and Gregorius. So I think there was optimism, but now everything comes to a halt. So when we get back together, whenever that is, will that feeling still be there? I really don't know.
Which then brings me to the next part. You mentioned Joe Girardi. What can Joe Girardi mean as a steady hand for this team? But also when they come back, what do you think he can mean as a steady hand in terms of getting them back in gear?
Well, he is a guy who seems to get big picture, whether it be in regards to baseball or life. So I think he will know what to say and know how to handle this situation. I'm sure he did when he broke with the team, and I'm sure he will when they get back together. He gets it. Joe Girardi just gets it. I'm watching in Elaine Vigneault with the Flyers, a guy who's kind of similar to Joe in that he's been through the wars. He's coached other teams. He hasn't won the Cup, although Joe obviously has won a World Series. There's one big difference. But Vigneault got a couple teams there. He's been there. They both have great resumes. And I've seen the influence that Vigneault has had on this Flyers team. It's been tremendous. And I can see the same kind of thing happening with Girardi. It's a little tougher maybe in baseball than hockey. Baseball managers are more in terms of game management and so forth. I think he's excellent in that regard, so I don't think we have anything to worry about. But it's not as much a culture, I think, sometimes, although there are those who felt that there wasn't quite enough accountability in the last couple of years with the Phils. I think there will be plenty of accountability with Joe Girardi. So I do think he'll know what to do. Again, he's not been through this either. None of us have ever been through this. But
right.
I get the feeling with Joe, he's the kind of guy who knows how to react to situations, even when they're new to him.
Jim, you were tremendous. Thank you so much. Appreciate the chance to sit down and talk with you today. The audience really appreciated it, too. Thank you.
Anytime. And be well, everybody.
Jim Jackson joining us. Does great work with the Phillies, does great work with the Flyers. And today's show is brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, imports, domestics, microbrews, best selection of beer anywhere, wine coolers, waters, soft drinks, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. And the Pickle Bar, led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. And we're in the Sunbury Motors studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. On News Radio 1070 WKOK. No offense, I feel like you need Brewers Outlet more than ever.
That's what I said in the open. Everyone's stocking up with everything else. With cleaning supplies, stock up on everything else, too.
I mean, what the heck, you know? Kathy and I went to the grocery store last night.
Oh, boy.
Well, no. I mean, and we only went because just through whether zero was happening, we would have had to go to the grocery store. And I said to her, I'll go with you. I mean, I usually don't go. It's not like I don't go to grocery stores, because I do. Obviously, hey, I'll pick up this, I'll pick up that, whatever. Now, obviously, when I go to the grocery store, I get a tendency to get stopped a lot. Okay, that happens. All right, which is fine. That's part of the job, and that's good. But I said, yeah, I mean, I'll go over. What the heck, I just want to go over with you. Okay, great. So we're over there, and we get to the aisle where, obviously, where's the number one? Let's pick the number one product on the shelves that is gone. It would be?
Hand sanitizer.
No.
Toilet paper?
No. Yes. No, we
I've heard
didn't
both,
need any.
so you never know.
No, we just happened to go down the aisle. We're like we weren't there to get anything. And she wanted to get I think tissues or whatever. Okay. But look at this. We knew it was going to be like this, but seeing it like that, you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Everything else, Easter's coming up. The chocolate aisle was completely filled. It's but when it came to toilet paper, nothing. Now, we didn't need any, so it was no big deal to us. We're looking at each other you got to be kidding me. We see people walking what do they put, a dozen in a package sometimes? 4 packages. It's 40 rolls of toilet paper.
I don't understand it either. And actually, my sister, Steve, who is a student at Drexel in Philly, she used the app GoPuff, and that's the only place now in Philly where you can literally get any toilet paper.
Really?
I never heard of it till just now.
Wow, I never heard of that either.
And here locally, our
hold on 1 second. Can I write that down? What is it?
It's GoPuff.
Just kidding.
And then the 4th Street Wise here in Sunbury apparently has empty shelves of toilet paper and all the other cleaning supplies. And now they have limits posted now once they get back fully stocked again. I mean, this is nuts.
Well, you know what? NCAA Senior Vice President Dan Gavitt has told CBS Sports that despite the fact there will be no March Madness this year, the NCAA has not yet completely killed the idea of releasing the 68-team field bracket.
Okay.
They should do it. You want to know why? Because the student athletes in men's and women's basketball should know whether they made it or not.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.